Records were reviewed. The rogue faction was exposed and removed from power. Through it all, the alarms came in the middle of the celebration. Earth had been officially accepted into the Galactic Council only hours earlier. Diplomats from dozens of species had gathered on Centrum Prime to welcome the 13th member species. There were speeches and ceremonies and the careful exchange of cultural gifts. Ambassador Junho had just finished addressing the assembly when every communication system in the station screamed warnings. 3 Council core worlds were under simultaneous attack. The Vrek swarm had launched their largest offensive in 50 years of conflict. Commander Hyun watched the tactical displays with growing horror. Each world had millions of inhabitants. Each world was defended by orbital platforms and patrol fleets. And each world was being overwhelmed by Vrek's numbers that defied comprehension. Thousands of vessels, General Borum said, her weathered face grim as she studied the data. They are hitting Krell Prime, Lumeria, and Soros all at once. This is not a raid. This is an invasion. Counselor Vexeral's mandibles clicked with barely controlled panic. Our defense fleets are scattered. We maintained peace through deterrence and diplomacy for so long that we spread our forces too thin. It will take days to gather enough ships to mount a proper defense. These worlds do not have days, Threshkin growled. His homeworld of Sauros was among the targets. They have hours at best. Ambassador Dalmora's crystalline form pulsed with frantic light. How did they know? How did they know exactly where to strike to do maximum damage? Hyun exchanged looks with General Borum. They both understood immediately. The Vreks had learned from their defeat at mining colony Epsilon 7. They had observed human tactics and adapted. This attack was designed to counter everything the Council knew about Vrek's behavior. It was coordinated, strategic, and devastating. They watched us, Hyun said quietly. When we fought them at the mining colony, they recorded everything. They learned how we think. This is their response. Then we are doomed, a counselor from the Lumerian delegation said. If they have learned to coordinate like this, nothing can stop them. Nothing in your playbook can stop them, General Borum corrected. But humanity has not shown you everything yet. She turned to face the council, her posture military straight despite her age. With permission, I would like to summon Earth's combined fleet. The chamber fell silent. Counselor Vexral leaned forward. You have a fleet? How many ships? 200 combat vessels. Another 100 support ships. We built them over the last 1,000 years while we developed our FTL capabilities. We hoped we would never need them for war, but we also learned not to be caught unprepared. Threshkon's scales flushed with anger. You lied to us. You said you only had exploration ships. We said the Resilience was an exploration ship, which is true, Hyun interjected. We never said it was our only ship. You never asked about our full capabilities. Because you wanted us to underestimate you, Vexral observed. His tone was not accusatory, merely thoughtful. No, General Borum replied, because we knew that if we showed up at your doorstep with a full military fleet, you would never have given us a chance. You would have seen an invasion force rather than a first contact expedition, so we sent our smallest ships first. We let you see our peaceful intentions before revealing our strength. Ambassador Junho stepped forward. Counselors, we can debate the ethics of our approach later. Right now, millions of beings are dying. Will you accept our help or not? The vote took less than a minute. It was unanimous. Within the hour, space around Centrum Prime filled with human ships emerging from FTL. They came in perfect formation, each vessel bearing the insignia of United Earth. 200 warships, sleek and deadly, accompanied by supply vessels and mobile repair platforms. Admiral Esel commanded the fleet from her flagship, the UES Indomitable. She was older than General Borum, her hair completely white, but her eyes held the sharpness of someone who had spent a lifetime preparing for this moment. Admiral, Hyun said when her hologram appeared on the Resilience's bridge. Good to see you, Commander. General Borum has briefed me on the situation. 3 targets, thousands of Rex vessels, millions of civilians at risk. Sounds like Tuesday. Her dry humor did not hide the gravity in her voice. We need to divide the fleet, General Borum said. 70 ships to each world with 60 in reserve for emergencies. Negative, a new voice interrupted. Scientist Minho appeared on the communication channel looking exhausted and excited. I have a better plan. Crazy plan, but a better one. The young scientist brought up holographic displays showing quantum mechanics equations that hurt Hyun's eyes just looking at them. The Vrex use quantum tunneling for their FTL travel. It is different from both our technology and Council technology, but I figured out how to disrupt it. Speak plainly, Admiral Isol demanded. I can collapse the quantum tunnels the Vrex use, permanently. It will trap their invasion forces at the 3 target worlds and prevent reinforcements from arriving, but it requires us to place quantum disruption devices deep in Vrex space, which means someone has to go on a suicide mission into the heart of enemy territory. The silence that followed was heavy. Everyone understood what Minho was saying. Someone had to fly into certain death to give everyone else a chance to survive. I will go, Lieutenant Nari said immediately. The tactical officer from the Resilience stepped forward, her expression calm despite the weight of what she was volunteering for. We will all go, Pilot Deho added. You need a team for this. I can navigate the tunnels. Nari can handle the tactical insertion. Engineer Tajin knows the devices well enough to deploy them correctly. No, Hyun started to say, but Nari cut him off. Commander, with respect, this is not your decision. We are volunteering. This is what humanity has always done. We sacrifice so others can survive. It is who we are. Dr. Minji stepped forward, tears in her eyes but voice steady. Then I am coming too. If this is a suicide mission, you will need a medic to keep you alive long enough to complete it. Admiral Isol studied the 4 volunteers for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. You will take the fastest ship we have. You will have the best equipment, and you will have a fleet protecting you for as long as possible. But understand this, I do not send people to die lightly. You complete this mission and you come home. That is an order. Yes, Admiral, they replied in unison. The plan came together quickly. The human fleet would split into 3 groups and engage the Vrex at each core world. They would use the tactics that had worked at mining colony Epsilon 7, but on a massive scale. Meanwhile, Nari's team would slip through the chaos and race toward the Vrex staging grounds. The Council watched in amazement as human military doctrine unfolded before them. General Borum coordinated with Council forces, integrating their ships into the human formations. She taught them guerrilla tactics, asymmetric warfare, and adaptive strategy. She showed them how to think like humans, always looking for the unexpected solution. Engineer Taijin had one last gift for the Council forces. He transmitted the specifications for human shield technology to every allied vessel. Our shields use a rotating frequency pattern, he explained. It makes them harder to penetrate with sustained fire. It will give you an edge. The fleet jumped to hyperspace and the battle began. At Krell Prime, 70 human warships emerged directly into the Vrex swarm. They did not engage in traditional formation combat. Instead, they scattered like seeds in wind, each ship becoming an independent threat. They used micro-jumps to appear and disappear, attacking from unexpected angles. They coordinated without central command, each captain making decisions in real time based on battlefield conditions. The Vrex, used to fighting enemies that maintained rigid formations, struggled to adapt. Their swarm tactics worked against organized fleets. Against chaos, they faltered. At Lumeria, human ships worked with the crystalline defenders to create a different kind of trap. They used the planet's unique magnetic fields to channel the Vrex into kill zones. Ambassador Dalamora's people provided real-time data on quantum fluctuations, allowing human navigators to predict Vrex movements before they happened. At Saros, Threshkin himself commanded the defense from the orbital platform. He watched as human vessels coordinated with his warriors in a dance of destruction that was somehow beautiful in its precision. The humans taught his pilots how to fight without glory, without honor, but with pure efficiency. Meanwhile, Nari's team raced through Vrex space in a ship so small and fast it barely registered on sensors. Deho flew with inhuman precision, dodging through quantum tunnels that should have been impossible to navigate. Nari calculated deployment points for the disruption devices. Tajin prepared them for activation. And Dr. Minji kept them all alive when exhaustion tried to claim them. They reached the first deployment point deep in enemy territory. The Vrex home clusters were massive structures of organic technology, pulsing with the collective thoughts of billions. Guards swarmed around them like antibodies attacking an infection. Deploy Device 1, Nari ordered. Taijin launched the first quantum disruptor. It was a small thing, barely the size of a human head, but it carried enough exotic matter to destabilize quantum tunnels across light years of space. The device activated. Reality scream. News of the Resilience's victory spread through Council space faster than any ship could travel. Within hours, every inhabited world knew the story. Humans, the species that had been locked away for 12,000 years, had done what Council military forces could not. They had defeated a Vrex attack with a single ship and saved 15,000 lives. Commander Hyun returned to Centrum Prime to find the station transformed. Where before he had seen fear and suspicion in every face, now he saw something far more complex. Some beings looked at him with hope and admiration. Others watched him with deeper fear than before. A species capable of such tactical brilliance could be a powerful ally or a terrifying enemy. The council chamber was packed when Hyun, Dr. Minji, and pilot Daeho entered. All 12 species had sent representatives, and many had brought advisors and military observers. The air buzzed with dozens of conversations in a dozen languages. Councillor Vexerol called for order, and the chamber fell silent. Commander Hyun, you have proven that humanity has capabilities we did not anticipate. The question before this council is what we should do with this knowledge. Ambassador Dalmora's crystalline form pulsed with warm light. I propose we begin integration protocols. Humanity has demonstrated peaceful intentions and extraordinary ability. They would be a valuable addition to our alliance. I disagree most strongly, Threshkan said, rising to his full height. His scales had flushed nearly black with emotion. Yes, they saved a colony, but in doing so, they demonstrated military capabilities that terrify me. Their tactics were brutal, effective, and unlike anything we have seen. This is exactly why they were quarantined. They are too dangerous. A new voice joined the debate, one Hyun had not heard before. Councillor Yinsara, an ethereal being that seemed to be made of light and thought, floated forward. Her species, Hyun had learned, possessed empathic abilities. They could sense emotions and intentions in ways other species could not. With respect to my colleague Threshkan, I have been in close proximity to the humans since their arrival, Yinsara said, her voice like wind chimes. I sense no malice in them, no desire for conquest or domination. What I sense is a profound loneliness and a desperate hope for acceptance. Feelings can be deceiving, Threshkan argued. Actions are what matter, and their actions show they are warriors. Their actions show they are survivors, Dalmora countered. There is a difference. The debate raged for hours. Hyun and his crew were questioned endlessly. How had they developed their FTL technology? What other capabilities did Earth possess? How many ships did they have? What were their intentions? Hyun answered honestly, sometimes too honestly. When asked about Earth's military capacity, he did not lie. We have defensive forces. Every world in our solar system has them. We learned the hard way that peace must be protected. But our military exists to defend, not to conquer. We have no interest in territory or resources beyond our own system. Yet you broke through our quarantine, Threshkan said. That was an act of aggression. That was an act of desperation, Dr. Minji replied. We could not live forever in isolation. We needed to know if there was a place for us out here. Would you have us remain locked away forever because of mistakes made 12,000 years ago? The session broke for what passed as evening on the station. Hyun and his crew were given quarters in the diplomatic section, far more luxurious than their previous accommodations. As they prepared to rest, a message arrived requesting their presence at an informal gathering. They were led to a garden dome, a space filled with plants from hundreds of worlds. The air was thick with oxygen and strange perfumes. Dozens of beings were present, representatives from various council species, all apparently wanting to meet the humans in a less formal setting. It started pleasantly enough. Beings introduced themselves, asked questions about Earth and human culture. Some wanted to know about human art and music. Others were more interested in technology. Hyun found himself explaining human history to a group of fascinated listeners. Dr. Minji was surrounded by xenobiologists, all eager to compare notes. Daeho had attracted a crowd of pilots and navigators who wanted to understand his calculations. Then the lights went out. Hyun's combat instincts, honed during Earth's unification wars decades ago, took over instantly. He grabbed Dr. Minji and pulled her down behind a planter filled with some kind of thorny vegetation. Around them, beings panicked and shouted. Emergency lights flickered on, casting strange shadows, and in those shadows figures moved with purpose. Hyun saw the glint of weapons, heard the distinctive whine of energy discharge. Someone screamed, then several someones. "Stay down," Hyun hissed to Minji. His eyes tracked the attackers, 5 of them, maybe 6, moving through the crowd toward where the humans had been standing. This was an assassination attempt. Daeho materialized beside them, his young face grim. "I counted 7 hostiles. Energy weapons. They are targeting us specifically." "Can you reach the exit?" Hyun asked. "Not without crossing their sight lines." Hyun made a decision. "Then we do not run. We fight." "With what?" Minji demanded. "We are unarmed. Station protocols prohibited any weapons." Hyun looked around the garden. Plants, rocks, decorative sculptures. "We improvise. It is what humans do." The attackers were getting closer, using stunned and frightened beings as cover. Hyun picked up a rock the size of his fist and waited. When one of the attackers emerged from behind a tree-like plant, Hyun threw with the accuracy of someone who had spent years training for combat. The rock struck the attacker's weapon arm. The energy pistol discharged wildly, its blast cutting through a tree. The attacker stumbled, and Daeho was on him instantly. The young pilot moved with speed and precision that shocked even Hyun. He disarmed the attacker in seconds and turned the weapon back on its owner. "Stay down," Daeho commanded. His voice held authority that had not been there before. Station security arrived moments later, but by then Hyun and Daeho had disabled 3 attackers. The others fled, vanishing into the chaos. Counselor Vexral arrived with a full security detail. His compound eyes swept the scene, taking in the injured beings and the subdued attackers. "Commander, are you harmed?" "We are fine," Hyun replied. He was breathing hard, adrenaline still pumping. "But I think someone just answered the question of whether humanity should be integrated into the Council." The attackers were taken away. Investigation revealed they were members of a radical faction within the Council itself, beings who believed humanity represented an existential threat. They had decided to eliminate the problem before it could grow. The incident changed everything. A formal trial was convened. The assassination attempt had violated the most sacred laws of the Council, the protection of diplomatic guests. Even Thresh Khan, who opposed human integration, was horrified by what had happened. "This is not who we are," Vexral said during the emergency session. "We have laws. We have principles. Those who attacked our guests have betrayed everything the Council stands for." 3 days later, a second human ship arrived at Centrum Prime. This one was larger than the Resilience, and it carried a full diplomatic delegation. Ambassador Junho stepped through the airlock with the confidence of someone who had negotiated treaties between Earth's nations for decades. "Counselors," Junho said, bowing respectfully. "I am Ambassador Junho, representative of the United Earth Government. I have come to formally request Earth's admission to the Galactic Council as a full member species." More humans followed. General Borum, a military strategist who had helped plan Earth's defense networks. Scientists and engineers who had developed Earth's various technologies. Cultural representatives who could explain human art, music, and philosophy. "We bring not just military capability," Junho continued. "We bring diversity of thought. We bring 12,000 years of hard-learned lessons about cooperation and survival. We bring a perspective that has been shaped by isolation and tragedy, but also by hope and determination." He paused, looking around at the assembled counselors. "I know many of you fear us. I know our history gives you reason to. But I also know that every species in this council has a dark history. Every civilization has made mistakes. The question is not whether humanity has been perfect. The question is whether we have learned and grown." A new investigation was launched into the assassination attempt. What they discovered shocked everyone. The conspiracy went deeper than anyone imagined. Elements within the council had been manipulating situations for years, trying to maintain control through fear. The worst revelation came when records showed that the Vrex swarm had not evolved naturally. They had been created, engineered as a biological weapon by a rogue faction within the Council centuries ago. The weapon had escaped containment and become the monster that now plagued Council space. "We created our own enemy," Dalmora said, her light dim with shame, "and we blamed other species for being violent while hiding our own sins." Counselor Yinsara floated forward. "I have sensed darkness in the Council for years, but I could never identify its source. Now I understand. We allowed fear to corrupt us. We allowed prejudice to guide our decisions. The humans are not the threat. Our own fear is the threat." The vote on human integration was postponed while the Council dealt with its internal crisis. Leaders were questioned. Finally, as the station's artificial day cycle began to dim, Vexrel called for a pause. "We must discuss this among ourselves." The alarm came in the middle of what passed for night on Centrum Prime. Commander Hyun was studying reports on his datapad when the emergency broadcast cut through every channel simultaneously. A robotic voice echoed through their quarters in perfect Council standard. "Priority distress signal received from mining colony Epsilon 7. Vrex swarm attack in progress. Estimated casualties exceeding 40% and rising." Hyun was on his feet instantly, pulling on his uniform jacket as he moved toward the door. Dr. Minji and Pilot Daiho emerged from their rooms at the same moment, both looking alert despite the hour. "The Vrex?" Minji asked, her fingers already working her own datapad. "I read about them in the Council records. They are supposed to be some kind of hive mind species. Very aggressive." "Very aggressive is putting it mildly," Daiho said, his expression grim. "They have wiped out 17 colonies in the past decade. The Council has been fighting them for 50 years with limited success." They rushed toward the Council chambers, following the flow of other beings who had responded to the alert. The corridors were chaos. Species Hyun could not name hurried in every direction. Voices raised in a dozen languages. Fear filled the air like smoke. The Council was already in emergency session when they arrived. Holographic displays showed the mining colony, a cluster of domes and industrial structures on an airless moon. Swarms of Vrex vessels surrounded it like insects around dying prey. The mining colony's shields flickered and failed even as they watched. "How long until your defense fleet arrives?" Dalmora was asking, her crystalline form pulsing with agitated light. 3 weeks, Vexrel replied, his mandibles clicking with frustration. "The nearest battle group is on the far side of Council space. By the time they arrive, everyone on that colony will be dead." 15,000 beings, another counselor said, a species Hyun did not recognize. 15,000 lives we cannot save." Threshcan slammed his clawed fist on the console. "We should have maintained stronger border defenses. The Vrex grow bolder with each attack. They know we are spread too thin." Hyun stepped forward. Every eye in the chamber turned to him and he felt the weight of their stares. This was not his place. He was barely a guest here, technically still under observation. But he could not stay silent. "Commander," Vexrel said, his tone warning, "this is a Council matter." "I understand, Counselor. But the resilience can reach that colony in 48 hours. Silence fell like a hammer. Threshcan's scales flushed dark with anger. "Impossible. It took our fastest scouts 5 days to bring this message. Nothing can cross that distance in 2 days. "Human FTL can," Daiho said, moving to stand beside his captain. "Our drive system folds space differently than yours. We can create deeper corridors through subspace. It is faster but requires more precise calculations." Vexrel studied them both carefully. "And what would you do when you arrive? Your ship is not a warship. You said so yourself. You have only basic defensive systems." "We improvise," Hyun replied simply. "It is what humans do best. We adapt. We find solutions that others miss. Give us a chance to prove it." The Council erupted into argument. Some spoke against allowing the humans to interfere. Others argued that 15,000 lives were worth any risk. Through it all, Hyun stood quietly, waiting for the decision that would define humanity's relationship with the galaxy. Finally, Dalmora raised her hand for silence. Her voice rang with authority. "We have nothing to lose. If the humans fail, those colonists die regardless. But if they succeed, we save 15,000 lives and learn whether humanity can truly be trusted. I vote to allow them to try." The vote was close, but it passed. Hyun bowed his thanks and turned to leave. Dr. Minji caught his arm. "I am coming with you. she said firmly. If there are survivors, they will need medical assistance. That is my specialty. Hyun wanted to argue, but he saw the determination in her eyes. He nodded once, and they ran together back to the Resilience. The ship's crew had already begun preparations. Lieutenant Nari, their tactical officer, had pulled up everything the Council database contained about the Vrex. Engineer Taejin was running pre-flight checks on the FTL drive, his hands moving through holographic controls with practice speed. Status? Hyun demanded as he took his seat on the bridge. Drive ready in 10 minutes, Taejin reported. Weapon systems charged. Medical bay prepared for mass casualties. Tactical analysis? Hyun looked to Nari. The lieutenant pulled up holographic displays showing the Vrex attack patterns. They use overwhelming numbers and basic tactics. Swarm attacks with no complex strategy. But they are relentless. Once they start an assault, they do not stop until everything is destroyed or they are wiped out. Then we give them a reason to stop, Hyun said. Daeho, plot our course. Taejin, I need you to think creatively. That mining colony has industrial equipment. What can we use as weapons? The engineer's eyes lit up. Mining lasers could be overcharged. Ore haulers could be used as battering rams. The refineries use explosive compounds for processing. If we vent them at the right moment, good. Start working on it. Nari analyzed their command structure. Every swarm has leaders. Find them. The Resilience tore away from Centrum Prime at speeds that made the Council observers gasp. Space folded around the ship as Daeho's calculations created a corridor through dimensions the Council had never learned to navigate. The journey that should have taken days compressed into hours. They emerged in the Epsilon 7 system with alarms blaring. Vrex vessels swarmed around the dying colony like carrion birds. Hundreds of them. Each one roughly the size of the Resilience but clearly designed for destruction rather than exploration. By the ancestors, Minji breathed, staring at the tactical display. There are so many. Then we even the odds. Hyun opened a channel to the colony. Mining Colony Epsilon 7. This is Commander Hyun of the United Earthship Resilience. We are here to help. Transmit control codes for all industrial equipment immediately. The response came quickly, a voice ragged with exhaustion and hope. Resilience, this is Colony Administrator Prentel. Transmitting codes now, but you should run. There are too many. You cannot win. Administrator, we do not plan to win, Hyun replied. Bye. We plan to survive. That is different. Stand by. The Virex noticed the new arrival and redirected a portion of their swarm toward the Resilience. 50 vessels broke formation and accelerated toward the human ship. Daeho, evasive pattern Delta, Hyun ordered. Make them chase us through the asteroid field. The pilot's hands danced across his controls, and the Resilience dove toward the dense ring of rocks that orbited the colony's moon. The Vrex followed, their vessels moving in perfect synchronization, thinking with one mind. They are predictable, Nari observed. They all make the same decisions at the same time. If we can exploit that, do it, Hyun said. Nari sent commands to the colony's mining drones. Hundreds of automated machines that had been harvesting ore suddenly received new programming. They positioned themselves throughout the asteroid field, waiting. The Resilience led the Vrex deeper into the rocks. Daeho flew with inhuman precision, threading gaps that seemed impossibly small. The Vrex followed, their larger vessels struggling to match his maneuvers. Now, Nari whispered, the mining drones activated simultaneously. Overcharged lasers designed to cut through solid rock fired in coordinated patterns. They did not target the Vrex ships directly. Instead, they cut through asteroids, sending massive chunks of stone tumbling into the swarm's path. The Vrex, all thinking the same thoughts, all reacting the same way, tried to evade in unison. They collided with each other and with the asteroids. Explosions blossomed across the field like deadly flowers. Got their attention, Daeho reported. More incoming from the colony. Looks like 200 vessels redirecting toward us. Good, Hyun said. That is 200 vessels not attacking the colony. Taejin, are the refineries ready? Venting explosive compounds on your mark, Captain. The Resilience burst from the asteroid field with the Vrex in pursuit. It raced toward the colony, seeming to flee. The Vrex followed eagerly, scenting victory. The colony's refineries opened their vents right into the path of the swarm. Volatile chemicals used for ore processing erupted into space in a massive cloud. The Vrex flew straight into it. Nari, light them up, Hyun ordered. A single shot from the Resilience's defensive weapons ignited the cloud. The explosion was visible from 3 star systems away. When the fire cleared, 70 VREX vessels were destroyed and twice that many were damaged and retreating. But there were still hundreds more. And the colony's shields were failing. "Commander," Administrator Prental's voice came through, urgent and afraid. "Our shields are at 15%. We have maybe 10 minutes before they fail completely." Hyun thought fast. They could not destroy all the VREX. But they did not need to. They just needed to make the cost too high for the swarm to continue. "Nari, did you find their command vessels?" 3 of them positioned at the edge of the swarm. "They are larger and hang back from direct combat. They coordinate the attack. Then we cut off the head." Hyun looked at Daeho. "Can you get us through that swarm?" The pilot studied the tactical display. His fingers ran calculations faster than the ship's computer. The docking procedure took 3 hours, and Commander Hyun used every minute to study Centrum Prime through the viewports. The station was massive, larger than anything humanity had ever built. Hundreds of ships from dozens of species moved in carefully choreographed patterns around the structure. Each one represented a civilization that had been traveling the stars for thousands of years, while Earth remained sealed away. "It is beautiful," Dr. Minji said quietly, standing beside him. Her eyes tracked a crystalline vessel that caught the light from the nearby star and scattered it into rainbow patterns. "All those different species working together. Let us hope they will give us the same chance," Hyun replied. Behind them, pilot Daeho ran through final system checks. His fingers moved across the controls with practiced ease, but Hyun could see the tension in his shoulders. They were all nervous. This moment would determine humanity's future. The docking clamps engaged with a solid thunk. A moment later, the communication panel lit up with instructions in Council Standard. They were to proceed to Diplomatic Receiving Area 7, where they would be met by Council representatives. Hyun straightened his uniform and nodded to his crew. "Remember what we discussed. Be respectful, be honest, and above all, be patient. They have every reason to fear us." The airlock opened onto a corridor that curved gently upward, following the station's rotation. Gravity felt slightly lighter than Earth normal, but not uncomfortably so. The walls were covered in screens displaying information in dozens of languages and script systems. Hyun recognized some from their decades of monitoring Council broadcasts. Others were completely alien. A delegation waited for them at the end of the corridor. Councillor Vexrel stood in the center, his insectoid form towering over most of the others present. Beside him, Ambassador Dalamora glowed with soft light, and flanking them both stood Councillor Threshkan, his reptilian eyes fixed on the humans with undisguised suspicion. "Commander Hyun," Vexrel said, his voice translated through a small device that floated near his head. "Welcome to Centrum Prime. Your ship has been secured and will not be disturbed during these discussions." "Thank you, Counselor." Hyun bowed in the manner Dr. Minji had taught him, the formal greeting used by most council species. "This is Dr. Minji, our xenobiologist and cultural specialist, and Pilot Daeho, our navigator." A pilot? Threshkan's scales rippled with what might have been amusement or contempt. "You bring a pilot to first contact negotiations?" Daeho stepped forward slightly, his expression neutral. "With respect, Counselor, I am here because I helped develop the navigation systems that brought us through your quarantine barrier. If you have technical questions about our faster-than-light capabilities, I can answer them." Something shifted in the air. Vexrel's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. "You developed the technology yourself? How old are you?" 28 standard years, Counselor." The silence that followed felt heavy. Hyun knew what they were thinking. By council standards, Daeho was barely an adult. Yet he had helped create technology that had stumped their best scientists for millennia. "Please follow us," Dalmora said, her voice carrying warmth that helped ease the tension. "We have prepared a chamber for discussions. There is much to talk about." They were led through corridors filled with beings that stopped to stare at the humans. Hyun heard whispers in languages both familiar and strange. He caught words like dangerous and violent and quarantine breakers in half a dozen tongues. Dr. Minji leaned close to him. "They are very afraid," she whispered. "I can see it in their body language. All of them." "Good," Hyun replied just as quietly. "Fear means respect. We can work with that." The discussion chamber was a large circular room with a transparent floor that looked down into space. Stars wheeled slowly beneath their feet as the station rotated. It was both beautiful and disorienting. "Please sit." Vexral gestured to chairs that had been clearly fabricated recently, designed for human physiology. Another good sign. They had taken time to prepare for this meeting properly. Once everyone was seated, Dalmora projected a hologram into the center of the room. It showed Earth as it had been 12,000 years ago, scarred, burning, wrapped in nuclear winter. "This is what we saw," she said simply. "This is why the quarantine was imposed. You must understand, Commander. We have seen species destroy themselves before. We believed we were giving Earth mercy by sealing you away, a chance to die with dignity rather than spreading your violence to the stars." Hyun felt anger rise in his chest, but he forced it down. Dr. Minji had warned him about this. The Council had convinced themselves they were being kind. They had to be shown the truth gently. "May I?" Dr. Minji asked, gesturing to the holographic controls. Dalmora nodded, and the doctor stood. Her fingers moved through the interface, and the image changed. Earth appeared again, but different now. Green and blue, clouds swirling across healthy oceans. Cities glowed on the night side, connected by webs of light. "This is Earth today," Minji said. "We cleaned the radiation. We replanted the forests. We purified the oceans. It took 3,000 years of constant work, but we did it. And while we worked, we learned. More images appeared. Schools, libraries, research centers. People of every ethnicity working together. The moon terraformed and populated. Mars with its first colony under construction. We had to change," Minji continued. "We had to become better. Because we knew that out there somewhere other species existed, and we knew that if we ever wanted to meet them, we had to prove we were worthy." Threshkan leaned forward. "Words, images, these prove nothing. How do we know this is not propaganda? How do we know that beneath this peaceful surface, you are not still the same violent creatures that nearly ended your own world?" It was Daeho who answered, his voice calm but firm. "Because violence is inefficient, Counselor. We learned that the hard way. Every resource we wasted on conflict was a resource we could not use for survival. Every life lost to war was a mine that could have helped solve our problems. We changed because we had no choice. We would have gone extinct otherwise." "You speak of efficiency," Vexral observed. "Yet you risked everything to break through our quarantine. That seems inefficient." Hyun smiled slightly. "Counselor, we spent 12,000 years rebuilding our world while knowing we were not alone in the universe. Knowing that somewhere out here, species were thriving among the stars while we remained trapped. Can you imagine what that was like? Every generation looking up at the night sky and wondering if they would be the ones to finally make contact. We developed faster than light travel not for war or conquest," he continued. "We developed it because isolation was killing us. Not physically, but spiritually. We needed to know we were part of something larger. We needed to prove to ourselves and to you that we had changed." Ambassador Dalmora's light pulsed thoughtfully. "You said you have been monitoring our communications for 2,000 years. What did you learn?" Dr. Minji sat back down, her expression serious. "We learned that the galaxy is at peace, mostly. We learned about the Council and its member species. We learned your laws, your customs, your histories. And we learned something else, too." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "We learned that you are afraid of us. Even after 12,000 years, even without any contact, you still see us as the monsters we were. And we understand why. But we are asking you to look past your fear and see what we have become." Threshikan stood abruptly. "I have a test for you, human. A simple one." He projected a complex mathematical equation into the hologram, symbols and formulas that twisted through three-dimensional space. "This is a tactical problem. A fleet of 50 vessels must reach 3 different destinations simultaneously, while avoiding detection through enemy-controlled space. Show me your solution." Daeho studied the equation for perhaps 10 seconds. Then he stood and walked to the hologram. His hands moved through the display, rearranging elements and adding new calculations. In less than a minute, he had a solution. Threshkan's scales went pale. "That is impossible. Our best strategists need hours to solve such a problem." "With respect, Counselor, your strategists are thinking linearly," Daeho replied. "You assume the fleet must travel through normal space to avoid detection. But if you modify the FTL approach angle and use gravitational lensing from these 3 stars, you can create a corridor that is effectively invisible to most scanning systems." Vexral stood now too, his compound eyes focused intently on the young pilot. "Show me another solution." Daeho's hands moved again and another solution appeared. Then another. Then another. Each one different, each one valid, each one calculated in seconds. "Enough. Vexerol said quietly. He looked at Hyun with what might have been respect or might have been fear. You are not what we expected. No, Counselor, Hyun agreed. We are not what you feared. We are what 12,000 years of hard work and determination can create. We are what happens when a species learns from its mistakes and refuses to repeat them. The meeting continued for hours. Questions and answers flowed back and forth. The council representatives probed for weaknesses, for signs of deception, for anything that would confirm their fears. But Hyun and his crew answered every question honestly and completely. The alarm screamed through the Galactic Council chambers like nothing Counselor Vexerol had heard in his 3 centuries of service. His compound eyes tracked the holographic display that materialized above the central platform, and what he saw made his chitinous plates rattle with fear. Red markers appeared across the projection of the Sol system, dozens of them, all indicating the same impossible thing: breaches in the quarantine zone. This cannot be happening, Ambassador Dalmora whispered, her crystalline form pulsing with anxious light. The quarantine has held for 12,000 years. Vexerol's mandibles clicked rapidly as he processed the data. The Sol system had been sealed since the humans nearly destroyed themselves in a catastrophic nuclear war. The Galactic Council had watched in horror as those primitive creatures turned their own world into a radioactive wasteland. The decision had been unanimous. Earth must be quarantined. Humanity was too dangerous, too violent, too unpredictable to ever be allowed among the stars. Massive warning buoys surrounded their solar system, broadcasting warnings in every known language. Automated defense platforms stood ready to destroy anything that tried to leave. It was meant to be permanent. It was meant to be impossible to break. Confirm the readings, Threshkon demanded, his reptilian scales flushing dark red. The Saurian warrior had always been the most vocal about keeping humanity locked away. This must be a malfunction. No malfunction, the station's artificial intelligence responded, detecting multiple vessels using faster-than-light propulsion. Origin point Earth. They have bypassed the quarantine perimeter. The chamber erupted into chaos. 12 species, each representing billions of citizens across thousands of worlds, all shouting at once. Fear filled the air like poison. The ancient warnings about humanity echoed in every mind present. Violent, destructive, unstoppable. Vexerol raised his foreclaw for silence. Show me the lead vessel. The hologram shifted, zooming in on a ship that hung in space just beyond the quarantine line. It was smaller than Council military vessels, sleek and unfamiliar in design. Strange symbols marked its hull, along with a designation in human script, UES Resilience. Then something unprecedented happened. A communication request blinked across every console in the chamber. They are hailing us, Dalmora said, her voice barely above a whisper. Do not answer, Threshkon snarled. Activate the Grand Fleet immediately. We must contain this threat before what? Dalmora interrupted. Before we hear what they have to say? We are the Galactic Council. We do not fire first and ask questions later. Vexerol made the decision. Accept the transmission, but prepare all defense systems. The hologram flickered and suddenly a human face appeared before them. Counselor Vexerol had seen archived images of humans before, but those had been from 12 millennia ago. This human looked different somehow, calmer. The being wore a uniform of deep blue, and his dark eyes surveyed the council with what appeared to be curiosity rather than aggression. Greetings, the human said in perfect council standard, his voice steady and clear. My name is Commander Hyun, Captain of the United Earthship Resilience. We come in peace and request permission to make formal contact with the Galactic Council. The chamber fell absolutely silent. The human spoke their language. Perfect pronunciation, perfect grammar. How was that possible? How did you learn our language? Vexerol asked, his voice sharp with suspicion. Commander Hyun's expression shifted into what humans called a smile. It looked gentle, non-threatening. We have been listening to your broadcasts for over 2,000 years, Counselor. We decoded your communications centuries ago. We have been waiting for the right moment to introduce ourselves. Waiting? Threshkon stepped forward, his claws extended. You have been trapped, contained. You nearly destroyed your own world with your violence and madness. Something changed in Commander Hyun's expression. The smile faded, replaced by something deeper. Sadness, perhaps, or regret. Yes, he said quietly. We did. We almost ended everything in fire and radiation, but we survived, Counselor Threshkun. We rebuilt. We changed. A second figure appeared beside Commander Hyun on the screen, a human female with intelligent eyes and a calm demeanor. My name is Dr. Minji, she said. I am a xenobiologist and first contact specialist. We understand your fear. We know what we were, but we also know what we have become. We have had 12,000 years to learn from our mistakes. Vexrel studied the two humans carefully. Behind them, he could see glimpses of their ship's interior. Clean, organized, advanced. Nothing like the primitive technology the Council had observed when they sealed Earth away. You developed faster than light travel, Dalmora observed. On your own, without any outside assistance. We had time, Commander Hyun replied, and motivation. We knew we were not alone in the universe. Your warning boys told us that much. We spent millennia studying, learning, advancing. Not for war, Counselor. For this moment. To prove to you that we deserve a chance. A third figure moved into view on the screen, younger than the other two, with quick eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. Pilot Deho reporting, he said with a slight bow. We have 19 other vessels waiting at the perimeter, all science and exploration ships. No weapons beyond basic defensive systems. We are not here to fight. How do we know this is not a trick? Threshkun demanded. Humans are deceitful, violent. You cannot change your nature in a mere 12,000 years. With respect. Counselor, Dr. Minji said, her voice firm but not aggressive. 12,000 years is not mere. It is 500 human generations. It is enough time to end wars, unite our world, and build a civilization dedicated to peace and knowledge. Vexrel's mind raced. Everything about this situation violated protocol. The quarantine should have held. These humans should not exist as they appeared now, educated, peaceful, technologically advanced. It challenged everything the Council believed about the violent species they had locked away. We cannot make this decision alone, Dalmora said finally. This requires a full Council vote. We understand, Commander Hyun replied. We have waited 12,000 years. We can wait a little longer. But please understand, we are not asking for permission to exist. We are asking for the opportunity to prove ourselves, to show you that humanity has earned its place among the stars. The transmission ended, leaving the Council chamber in stunned silence. Vexrel looked around at his fellow counselors. He saw fear in every face, every form. Fear of the unknown, fear of what humanity might be. But beneath that fear, he also saw something else. Curiosity. We vote in one cycle, he announced. Until then, the humans may send one ship to dock at Centrum Prime. One ship only. Commander Hyun and his crew will be granted temporary diplomatic immunity for preliminary discussions. This is madness, Threshkun hissed. Perhaps, Vexrel agreed, but they found a way out of the quarantine. That means our assumptions about humanity may need revision. We will hear them out. Then we will decide. As the Council dispersed, each member lost in their own thoughts, Vexrel remained behind. He stared at the holographic display showing Earth, that small blue world that had been hidden away for so long. Something had changed, something fundamental, and the galaxy would never be the same again. Deep in the military section of the station, orders were being quietly distributed. The Grand Fleet began moving into position just in case. Because while the Council would extend courtesy and diplomacy, they would not be foolish. Humanity had emerged from their cage. The question now was whether they would prove to be allies or the greatest threat the galaxy had ever known.